I used to think silence meant peace. That if the house was clean, the gym shoes were by the door, and the morning smoothies were still cold when I got out of the shower, everything was fine. That was the lie I built my life around. I'm Gavin Weber, 35, structural engineer. I deal in steel, weight, compression, load-bearing truths. I should have seen the stress fractures long before they buckled the whole damn thing. Seraph and I met in college, mutual calculus hell. We weren't soulmates, just two sharp minds who got along, didn't fight, and made smart decisions. No kids by choice. Dual incomes, condo in Westview Heights, Peloton in the spare room, Sundays at brunch. It looked clean, organized, like we had it figured out. And I believed that right up until the day she stopped charging her phone in the open. It started subtly. Fewer texts, more late nights, a shift in the way she got ready for work dinners. The perfume I used to love now felt like camouflage. Every time she said the name Julian, the guy married to her best friend Diana, she smiled with her teeth, not her eyes. The way women smile when they think no one notices. Except I noticed. Julian Bell was everything I wasn't. Loud, flashy, drove a white Tesla with custom rims and dressed like he was auditioning for a reality show. He's harmless, Seraph said. Diana trusts him completely. That was her defense. Not mine, not hers, Diana's. They started showing up in conversations more than usual. Julian this, Diana that. We should all do dinner. I'd nod, pretend I was busy, and go back to my workbench in the garage. Something in my gut twisted every time I heard his name, but I shoved it down. Seraph had never cheated before. We were just plateauing, right? Then came the gym lie. I came home early one Friday. Job site had a water line burst and we had to shut down. I walk in and her running shoes are spotless by the door, untouched. Her gym bag is still zipped, but she texted me 5 minutes earlier. Just finished cardio, heading to shower. That was when I knew. Not suspected. Knew. But I didn't confront her. That's not how I'm built. Instead, I took a long shower. Alone. Cold. I let the water run down my back like it was pressure testing my spine. I stared at the grout lines I'd resealed just 6 months ago and wondered how many other things in this house were quietly breaking. After dinner, I asked her how the gym was. Good, she said. Did some incline, stretched after. I nodded. Didn't flinch. Didn't push. She looked me in the eye and lied anyway. That was the part that stayed with me. I started keeping a mental log. What time she left. What time she came home. What shirt was at the dry cleaners for weeks. Who she mentioned. Who she didn't. It wasn't obsessive. It was architectural. I was drafting a blueprint of deceit, one column at a time. One night, I caught her smiling at her phone. Not scrolling. Not reading. Smiling. I asked what was funny. She locked the screen without blinking. Just a meme. That was when something inside me stopped. Not snapped. Just stopped. I stopped reaching for her in bed. I stopped asking how her day was. I stopped pretending I didn't already know the answer. And in the space that silence made, something else grew. Not sadness. Not rage. A calculation. She was disappearing. Bit by bit. Replacing shared routines with private messages. Shared jokes with blank stares. And I realized I was letting her do it. I was letting her erase me. So I waited. Not because I was weak, but because I wanted to know exactly how deep the betrayal went before I cut the beam holding this whole thing up. The message came in at 11:17 a.m. on a Tuesday. Diana Bell. Gavin, can we talk? Just us. Please. I need to show you something. I stared at it for 10 full minutes. Diana wasn't someone I texted. We weren't friends. We were satellites orbiting the same two people. She always smiled politely, laughed when expected, and stayed in her lane. For her to reach out, it meant something cracked. I told her to name the place. She picked Riverside Cafe. Quiet, off the main road, the kind of spot with wood paneling, weird coffee syrups, and two elderly men who probably hadn't left their booth since Nixon. I got there early, sat by the window. 2 black coffees are already sweating on the table. Diana walked in like she hadn't slept in a week. Hair pulled back, sunglasses she didn't take off, body stiff like she'd braced for an impact that already happened. She sat down, pulled out a large manila envelope. Didn't speak. "Diana," I said calmly, "what's going on?" She slid the envelope across the table like it had a detonator inside. "I didn't want to believe it either," she whispered. "But I've known for 3 weeks. I just didn't know what to do. Until now." I opened it slowly. Receipts. Dozens of them. Hotel rooms booked midweek in the city. Dinners paid for in Julian's company card. Spa days. Jewelry stores. Even at a damn wine tasting in Napa I didn't know Seraph ever went on. There were texts. Screenshots from some synced cloud account. I recognized Seraph's style instantly. The way she added LOL to soften anything too direct. The way she'd flirt with passive-aggressive charm. Except this wasn't innocent. It was detailed, physical, specific. She missed his hands. He liked her perfume best when it was the one Gavin hates. They joked about idiot spouses not noticing anything. Then the photos. Julian's hand on the small of her back. Both of them laughing, mouths too close, bodies too familiar. A hotel hallway camera still. Timestamped 2:14 a.m., her in a coat, him beside her, his hand in her back pocket. And finally, GPS data from Diana's phone, showing Julian's car parked near our place while I was out on site. I didn't say a word. I didn't ask how Diana got this, or how long she'd been digging, because I knew that look in her eyes. She was just like me, burned clean through and choosing revenge over heartbreak. "They've been doing this for at least 4 months, she said. "Maybe longer, but this is everything I have. And there's more." She reached into her purse and pulled out a USB drive. "I used to be a forensic accountant before I switched to consulting," she said. "Julian's been funneling money through dummy vendors and personal reimbursements. Almost $500,000 unaccounted for. 50 grand spent on your wife alone. I think I can prove it." I took a slow breath. The anger wasn't loud. It was surgical, clean. "He's embezzling?" I asked. She nodded. "From a publicly traded company. If the board finds out, it won't just be a scandal. It'll be criminal." I sat back, looked at the folder, the drive, and the woman across from me. 2 people. For broken promises. 1 perfect opportunity. "Are you planning to blow this up?" I asked. Her mouth twisted into something between a smirk and a snarl. "I'm done being a good wife," she said. "I want them to lose everything." I nodded. "Then let's make sure they do." We didn't hug. We didn't cry. We didn't spiral into some trauma-bonding pity party. We exchanged contact info, split the evidence into copies, set up a meeting with a lawyer Diana trusted. And as we stood to leave, she paused. "They think we're stupid," she said. "They think we'll just get sad and go away quietly." I shook my head. "They're wrong." When I got back in my truck, I didn't drive home. I drove to my bank, changed access, froze the joint account, replaced passwords, set up alerts. It was time to stop being a husband and start being the man they underestimated. I didn't scream, didn't throw her clothes on the lawn or key her car. That's not how I'm wired. I build things for a living: bridges, trusses, load-bearing systems. You want something to stay upright under pressure? You calculate first, then cut. Always in that order. So that's what I did. First thing Wednesday morning, I took a personal day. Told Seraph I had a client meeting. She barely looked up from her phone, probably texting him. I didn't care. Not anymore. By 8 a.m., I was in the office of Jessica Miller. She was a referral from a guy I knew in contracting. He said she was ruthless, efficient, and allergic to bullshit. Sounded like exactly what I needed. "Start from the top," she said, snapping open her legal pad. I did. Gave her everything: Sharif's affair, the evidence, the financial data Diana uncovered. I didn't sugarcoat it, didn't stumble. Just facts. Structural integrity of betrayal laid out like blueprints. When I was done, she leaned back and tapped her pen twice on the desk. "Well, Gavin," she said, "you've got yourself a golden hammer." "Meaning?" Meaning we don't just file for divorce, we scorch earth. She cheated. They used marital funds to finance it. And her lovers committed financial fraud. We press on every front. Can I move out? I asked. You can. But don't leave the house to her. We'll file the papers and serve her fast. In public. At work, if possible. Let her feel it. I nodded. Good. Then she leaned in. Until then, keep your mouth shut. Act normal. Don't let her smell a shift in the wind. The moment she panics, she'll start covering her tracks. Won't be a problem, I said. She gave me a list, bank accounts to lock, credit lines to cut, passwords to change, assets to preserve. I had most of it done by lunch. I rerouted my paycheck into a separate account under my name, canceled the joint credit card and replaced it with one under my LLC, logged into our shared home assistant and disabled her remote access. I even pulled the doorbell camera history just in case. 2 nights ago, Julian's car was parked across the street at midnight. By 4 p.m., I'd moved my essentials, clothes, tools, laptop to Bobby's place. He was an old friend from my gym days, ran a pool cleaning business, and had an empty guest room and no questions. You all right? He asked as I set my duffel bag down. Getting there, I said. We cracked a couple beers, sat on his patio in silence. The sun dropped behind the cypress trees, and I felt lighter than I had in weeks. That night, I started deleting photos. Not all of them, just the ones that mattered. The ones where she looked happy with me. The ones that lied. Then I opened our shared calendar and noted something. She had a strategy offsite next Friday. 3 days in Palm Springs. I checked Diana's GPS log. Julian was going too. Perfect. I added a court filing date for that same Friday. Jessica would serve the papers at Seraph's office right before she left. Let her try sipping margaritas with a legal grenade in her lap. The next morning, I kissed her goodbye. She kissed back, lightly, distracted, probably thinking about him. I didn't flinch, didn't hesitate, because the difference between men like Julian and men like me, he thinks flash wins everything. I know structure wins wars, and I was building something new, out of fury, out of silence, out of the cold, brutal geometry of justice. She just didn't know it yet. Friday, 11:38 a.m. Seraph was scheduled to head to Palm Springs at noon. Strategy offsite, she called it. I knew better. Julian would be there, too. Another work coincidence. She didn't even try to hide anymore. She'd packed the night before, left her suitcase by the door, and kissed me goodbye with her usual feigned sweetness. I told her I had an afternoon client meeting downtown. What I had was front row seating. Jessica had arranged everything. The timing, the courier, the exact location of Seraph's office entry. I sat across the street at a little cafe, dark sunglasses on, black coffee in hand, door in full view. At 11:41 a.m., she walked out, hair curled, nails fresh, wearing that blue blazer she only dusted off for presentations or seduction. Then the courier appeared, mid-20s, well-built, dressed like an Uber Eats driver. He handed her the manila envelope with the official state seal printed clean and bold across the front. She looked confused at first, then read her name, then flipped it over. Her face fell. It was like watching a glass shatter in reverse. Shock first, then the cracks. I watched as her hand trembled. She turned on her heel, stormed back into the building, eyes darting like a caged animal. I took a sip of coffee and leaned back. Across the street, Seraph's carefully built life had just started collapsing. By 7 p.m., I was back at Bobby's place, halfway through a steak and sipping bourbon when she showed up. No knock, no call, just the doorbell and a blur of rage on the security feed. Bobby muted the TV. You want me to send her off? I'll handle it. I opened the door. She stood there, arms crossed, mascara streaked from crying or panic, or both. Her voice cracked before she even got the first word out. What the hell is this, Gavin? Divorce papers, I said flatly. She stepped forward like she thought she still had a vote. This is insane. You can't just. I already did. You ambushed me at work? Are you trying to humiliate me? I didn't move, didn't blink. You did that all on your own. She scoffed. Julian, he means nothing. It wasn't serious. I was just confused. I laughed once. Cold. Sharp. For months of hotels, wine tours, and secret meetups. That's not confusing. That's coordination. Her voice rose. I made a mistake. Okay? But to do this? To cut me off? To embarrass me? I stepped outside. Let the door close behind me. No. You don't get to talk about consequences like they're cruel. You lied. You cheated. You used our money to chase your fantasy. I'm just the bill collector. She looked like she was ready to cry again. But no tears came. Just that frantic, cornered energy I'd seen in enough project negotiations to recognize a losing side bluffing hard. You'll regret this, she whispered. No. You will, I replied. And next time, speak to my lawyer. Don't show up uninvited. I turned and walked back inside. She didn't follow. Bobby handed me another bourbon. That what you wanted? Better. We watched her storm off on the doorbell cam. Heels wobbling, hair frizzed by the wind. The same woman who used to spend hours curating the perfect photo to post from Santorini now looked like someone halfway through a breakdown. She had no idea how deep it was going to get. No idea Julian's world was about to burn with hers. But I did, because I wasn't done. Not even close. Monday, 6:04 p.m. I was heading to my truck in the lot behind our engineering office, keys in hand. Mind on the inspection reports due Wednesday, when I heard a voice behind me. Gavin. I knew that voice. Fake casual. Polished with arrogance. Julian Bell. I turned. He stood there like he expected applause. Button down half open. Aviators perched on his head. That smug little smirk he probably practiced in the mirror every morning. The guy looked like a bad commercial for cologne that smells like crypto and coleslaw. We need to talk, he said, stepping closer. We don't. He chuckled. Look, man, I get it. You're pissed. You found out about me and Seraph. I cut him off with a stare that stopped him mid-sentence. Don't say her name to me. He raised his hands. Fine. But this? The legal ambush, the drama, it's overkill. We're all adults here. No, Julian. Adults don't screw their wife's best friend in hotel rooms bought with embezzled money. His smirk vanished like a switch had been flipped. You don't know what you're talking about, he said, eyes narrowing. Oh, but I do. I stepped in close. Inches between us now. Just enough for him to see it in my eyes. What kind of man he was dealing with. I know about the dummy vendors, the reimbursement scams, the fake consulting reports. I've seen the spreadsheets, the expense logs, the GPS pings. I've got it all. He went pale. Not like a guy caught cheating. Like a guy staring at the edge of a cliff he didn't know he'd been walking toward. You have no proof, he whispered. I smiled. You're not scared of me, Julian. You're scared of Diana. That landed. His jaw tightened. She wouldn't. She already did. He backed up a step. I didn't follow. We could all go down if this goes public, he snapped. I won't. He looked up, hope flickering. But you will, I added. That was it. I turned to walk back to my truck. And then he made the mistake of opening his mouth one more time. She'll come back to me, you know? I stopped. She always said you were cold. Clinical. Like living with a robot in a flannel. That was the last sentence he spoke before I hit him. One punch. Clean. Controlled. Right to the jaw. Years of gym work packed into a single motion. His sunglasses went flying. He hit the pavement like a sack of bad decisions. I stood over him. She's all yours, Julian, I said calmly. Just make sure to write from prison. Then I got in my truck and drove off. No speeding. No panic. Just another task checked off the list. Back at Bobby's, Diana was waiting. She'd brought takeout and that same calm fury I'd seen in the cafe. We ate in silence for a while. Chicken teriyaki and red wine. He knows, I said finally. Good, she replied. Then she handed me a USB drive. This one has the full audit. Emails, receipts, transfers. I'll write the report. You handle the delivery. I looked at her. Not as Julian's wife, not as some hurt woman needing rescue, but as a partner. In war, we're not just getting even, I said. We're going to bury them. Diana smiled. Then let's start digging. Diana didn't flinch when she opened her laptop. She didn't tremble or hesitate or wince at the folders labeled Bellenderser embezzlement and she'd spent years married to a fraud, and now she was taking him apart one spreadsheet at a time. We sat in Bobby's garage, where I'd cleared out space next to the old tool chest. A cheap folding table, 2 chairs, laptop open, USB drives laid out like surgical tools, bourbon nearby, untouched. This is overkill, I muttered, half impressed, half disturbed. She looked up. No, this is bulletproof. Inside the folders were expense reports dating back 2 years. Julian had created 3 fake vendors, LLC shell companies with names just bland enough to pass: Apex Strategy Group, Northview Analytics, and Cobalt Risk Solutions. All of them billed his firm for consulting services. None of them existed. Diana traced the payments from the corporate account straight to a checking account he'd hidden under a trust in Nevada. I scrolled through line after line of charges. $3,400, executive training retreat, Napa Hotel for him and Seraph. $2,800, client dinner steakhouse downtown. Wine list, room service, tips. $9,700, market research subscription jewelry store in Beverly Hills. Over $400,000 in total. At least $50,000 of it was spent on Seraph in the last 6 months alone. Does the company know any of this? I asked. They will tomorrow, Diana said, plugging in another drive. This one's going to the board. This one goes to the finance department. And this one, she tapped the red one, goes to the SEC. You sure they'll act? She smiled. This isn't a moral issue. It's a liability. They'll cut him loose so fast his Rolex will still be spinning. I handed her the printout I'd made. Julian's car parked across from my house at 1:13 a.m., captured by my doorbell cam. Seraph exiting the passenger side. Disheveled. Laughing. Diana took it without comment and slid it into the packet labeled HR leak. We weren't just ending a marriage or two. We were discrediting 2 people who had built their lives on manipulation and surface charm. They didn't just lie to us, they lied to companies, to shareholders, to the world. Now we were turning on the floodlights. By midnight, the files were uploaded. Emails queued. Anonymous routing tools in place. No fingerprints. You want to hit send? Diana asked. I nodded. She clicked once, then twice, then shut the laptop with finality. That's it, she said. I didn't say anything. We just sat there, me, the builder, her, the dismantler. The next morning, I went to work like usual. Seraph hadn't tried to contact me since her doorstep meltdown. Jessica said she was still reeling from the financial separation. Her card was frozen, her accounts locked, and her lawyer hadn't filed a formal response yet. The longer she hesitated, the worse it would be for her. By lunch, I got the first ping. Julian Bell suspended pending internal investigation. Anonymous tip led to a financial review. The board issued a memo within 3 hours. Diana forwarded it to me with nothing but a smiley face. By evening, his email was shut down. Office access revoked. 2 days later, the SEC formally acknowledged receipt of a complaint. Seraph's work laptop was seized as part of a compliance check. She was called into a closed-door HR meeting and sent home afterward. Word spread fast. Loss of confidence was the internal memo explanation. I got another message from Jessica. Everything is unfolding perfectly. Stay quiet. Stay clean. We'll let the dust settle before we go to court. Back at Bobby's, Diana and I sat in the same 2 chairs. We didn't toast. We didn't celebrate. We just watched the fire we'd lit do its job. Justice didn't have to be loud. Sometimes it was just a file, a click, and the sound of everything fake coming apart. Julian was out by Friday. They didn't even let him clear his desk. Corporate security boxed his stuff and handed it to him in the lobby while the whole floor pretended not to watch. Diana sent me the security cam stills. Him standing there with that same smug haircut, now drooping with sweat and panic, clutching a cardboard box like a first-timer on a bad game show. By Monday, his firm's official statement dropped. Effective immediately, Julian Bell is no longer employed at this company. A forensic audit is ongoing. Translation: he was radioactive, and they were cutting the cord fast to protect their own asses. The SEC moved faster than expected. Diana's report was that good, clean, cross-referenced, timestamped. They'd already subpoenaed internal records and frozen 2 of his personal accounts. Meanwhile, Serif's office cracked under the pressure. Once they saw her name on charges tied to Julian's expense reports, they launched their own internal ethics inquiry. That's HR speak for, "We're going to make you disappear quietly." She was escorted out by a junior manager. No warning, no goodbyes, just one quiet afternoon email. Serif Weber is no longer with the company. We thank her for her service. I heard from Jessica an hour later. Serif's attorney had finally called. She's asking for mediation, she said, almost amused. Why? She claims she's emotionally devastated, wants to talk things through. Is that a legal term? No, Jessica said. It's the sound of a drowning woman asking for a rope she already burned. I didn't reply to Serif. I hadn't since the doorstep outburst. She tried, of course, emails, blocked calls, even a handwritten letter shoved under Bobby's garage door like it was 1989. I scanned it once. I was lost. I didn't mean to fall for him. I thought you didn't love me anymore. Please don't throw away 6 years. 6 years. She didn't mention the nights she disappeared, the gaslighting, the joint account she drained, just the time she thought I'd cling to like it meant something. Jessica had a better use for that letter, Exhibit B in our divorce file. Diana, meanwhile, was making her own moves. Her prenup had a clause about marital misconduct tied to financial damage. With the fraud confirmed, she locked in sole ownership of their vacation property, 60% of investment accounts, and primary custody of their Bernese mountain dog, Winston, which, by all accounts, Julian cared more about than his own damn marriage. You're ruthless, I told her one night. She raised her glass. I learned from the best. We didn't talk much about the emotional stuff. No long therapy sessions. No midnight breakdowns. We both dealt with betrayal the same way. Quiet, sharp, and final. Sometimes, we'd sit in the back of Bobby's yard with takeout and just watch the wind move through the trees. No music, no chatter, just peace. And yet, the fallout wasn't finished. Serif filed a motion claiming emotional distress and loss of lifestyle. She wanted alimony, citing the trauma of sudden financial severance. Jessica crushed it like an aluminum can. Let's remind the judge she spent tens of thousands of marital funds on a man under federal investigation, she said. If she wants sympathy, she can call her mother. The judge agreed. Motion denied. 1 week later, I got word. Julian's house had been raided. Not some SWAT-level event, just a quiet visit by federal investigators with clipboards and sealed envelopes. Diana drove by for closure and sent me a photo of Julian sitting on the front steps in socks, head in his hands, as they went through his filing cabinets. The mighty had officially fallen. And me? I started sleeping again. Real sleep, the kind where you wake up and don't check your phone in a cold sweat. I went back to work full-time, took on a few overtime jobs, cut wood in the garage just to hear something solid crack beneath my hands. The world kept moving, and for the first time in a year I wasn't chasing it. I was setting the pace again. The courtroom was cold. Not physically, just in spirit. Sterile, wood-paneled, full of polite silence and quiet dread. Serif sat across the aisle with her lawyer, some polished, soft-voiced guy who looked like he practiced yoga and damage control. She wore beige, her hair tied back, face blank like she was auditioning for sympathy. Jessica sat beside me, calm as ever, shuffling through her color-coded folders like we were about to review building permits. You ready? She asked. I've been ready since the day she smiled at her phone and lied to my face. When the judge entered, we stood. Civil court. No jury. Just facts, filings, and receipts. And we had them all. Jessica opened with a measured tone, detailing Serif's affair, the misuse of marital funds, the public collapse of her professional reputation. and the connection to a federal investigation. She moved like a surgeon, precise, clean, no wasted motion. Then came the exhibits, hotel receipts, GPS logs, the doorbell cam image of Seraph slipping out of Julian's Tesla at 1:13 a.m., the bank statements showing charges for spas, wine tours, and luxury dining all tied to Julian's shell company cards, the joint account withdrawals, timed within hours of those dates. Her attorney tried to object to relevance. The judge shut him down. Then Seraph took the stand. She tried to cry, said she was confused, emotionally neglected, manipulated by a charming liar. The words came out flat, practiced, like she didn't believe them, but hoped someone else might. Jessica cross-examined without raising her voice once. So, you admit to using joint funds on at least 11 trips with Mr. Bell? Yes, but answer the question. Yes. You admit to concealing these trips from your husband? Yes. And you admit to continuing the affair even after being confronted? Yes. Jessica closed her folder. No further questions. The judge didn't need long. Judgment entered in my favor. Full ownership of the house. Full rights to my investments. No alimony. No claim to future earnings. All attorney fees paid by her. It was over in less than 2 hours. As we walked out, I didn't look at her, but she followed. Outside the courtroom, in the long government hallway with flickering lights and waxed floors, I heard her heels behind me. Gavin, she called softly. I kept walking. Please, can I just say something? I stopped, turned. She looked smaller now, not in size, just in presence, like a ghost of the woman I once knew. You don't have to forgive me, she said. I never thought it would end like this. I looked her dead in the eyes. I did. Then I walked past her, out the double doors and into the sunlight. Diana was waiting in the parking lot, leaning against her car with 2 iced coffees in hand. Well? She asked. Clean sweep. She handed me a cup. Told you. We drove in silence, windows down, old Springsteen playing on low. We didn't need to talk about what we'd lost. We already had. What mattered now was what we kept, and what we rebuilt. That night, we sat on Bobby's patio again. This time, the silence felt different. Not wounded, not waiting, just peaceful. We didn't toast. We didn't gloat. We just watched the sky get dark and knew, for the first time in months, the worst was behind us. 6 months later, life was unrecognizable in the best way. I was living in a house I actually wanted to come home to. Simple, quiet, with a workshop out back and a coffee maker that brewed exactly how I liked it because no one changed the settings behind my back. Diana lived 5 minutes away in a clean, modern condo she'd bought with her divorce settlement and a portion of Julian's frozen assets she successfully clawed back in court. She looks lighter these days, still sharp, still quiet, but her smile wasn't fake anymore. We saw each other often, not as rebounders, as 2 people who understood ruin and had the guts to rebuild anyway. Julian was in prison now, sentenced to 5 years minimum, corporate fraud, wire fraud, obstruction. Diana forwarded me the news article. No fanfare, just a mugshot of a man who used to walk into parties like he owned the place. Now, he wore a beige jumpsuit and looked like he hadn't slept in months. Seraph? She was working retail at some boutique store near the mall. Fired from her last 3 jobs, ethics issues kept following her. Word got around. She dyed her hair, changed her social media handle, and tried to reinvent herself. But no reinvention could cover up the stench of desperation. She reached out once. A message request on a blank account. Can we please talk? Just coffee. I'm not okay. I didn't respond. Diana saw it, laughed, and took a selfie of us at brunch with the caption, "Still thriving." Posted it. No comment. Just let it sit there. 3 days later, the doorbell rang at 10:42 p.m. Bobby's security cam caught it in full. Seraph, disheveled, pale, eyes red and wild. She was screaming something about lies, betrayal. How could you? And you're with her now. Diana watched from the hallway, wine glass in hand. She's drunk. she said. She's done, I replied. I opened the door just long enough to say 3 words. You need help. Then I shut it and dialed the non-emergency line. Cops showed up in 12 minutes. Seraph was still ranting on the porch, slurring about karma and second chances. They escorted her off the property. I filed a restraining order the next morning, approved by the end of day. That was the last time I saw her face in real life. Not long after, I sold the old condo. Every room still felt haunted. I used the equity to buy a fixer-upper outside the city. Acreage, quiet, no neighbors for miles. A place where nothing fake could survive. Diana came over one weekend with Winston, her overly fluffy mountain dog, and a box of tacos. This place suits you, she said. Why's that? Because there's not a single thing here you didn't build yourself. I smiled. Not true. She tilted her head. You helped build this piece, I said. Whether you like it or not. We didn't label anything. No pressure. Just 2 people who earned their quiet. Sometimes revenge isn't fire and brimstone. Sometimes it's a man sipping coffee at sunrise, with no more lies under his roof and no more weight on his chest. Sometimes it's just walking away while the wreckage smolders behind you, and never looking back.